Our next speaker is the head of data and analytics, KPMG in Nigeria, who will be showcasing some of KPMG's digital assets and solutions. He has experience across a number of sectors, including financial services, oil and gas, consumer markets, and public sector. He leads KPMG Nigeria's Insight Center, a next-generation collaborative environment that allows our clients to interact directly with their data and engage in innovative solutions to tackle business challenges. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Yomi Akinyemi.
While we address problems across industry, whether it's financial services or consumer markets or oil and gas or telecoms, whatever industry it is, we also have a functional view in solving problems with analytics capabilities. So we have solutions right in our stable that speaks to the concerns around the customer and how you're able to harness internal and external data that is available to your organizations to take decisions and make more impacts from a customer point of view. We also have solutions that speak directly to the finance function as well and the decisions that you need to take, whether it's from a risk perspective or even if it comes to, forecasting and making more sense of the data that's available. Our focus also touches on operations and supply chain, where some of the capabilities I will show really speak to how we're able to take better decisions with the data that is available and also save costs in terms of human resources as well that are focused and dedicated to that. At the end of it is really to take better decisions. And then we also have a focus on human resources as well, and the concerns that the Chief Human Resources Officer has on an ongoing basis, and how we're able to embed analytics and digital capabilities to really solve problems. We also have solutions that cut across many parts of the business enterprise as well. So the underlying thing is that we have the capabilities to really come up with solutions that address specific needs. These are just a selection of the capabilities and assets that we do have. And we are willing to actually speak to you a lot more, if you approach us at the booth just along the hallway. So very quickly, I'll touch on two of the capabilities and solutions that we see here. I'll be speaking about cognitive contract management and enterprise value management. The supply chain function, one of the challenges that they actually face on an ongoing basis is contract management and the efficiency that is actually required to take decisions. One of the clients that we work with, they had the concern of solving that problem. And at the heart of it was they had a very ineffective contract lifecycle management system, which was really about the non-standardization of contract templates that they had. It was difficult for them to take decisions. And one of the concerns was they needed to pore over thousands of documents, and they needed to do it in a very short time. So how are we able to enable it with artificial intelligence, with analytics, and the capabilities that come with it to really address problems that a human ordinarily is meant to solve? And there was also the challenge of using a very expensive resource to actually pore through those documents. This was the problem that they really set out to achieve. So what we did was we actually worked with them to develop what we called a cognitive contract management system. And what this really does, what it is it's a combination of KPMG's in-house suite of technologies. So we leverage machine learning, optical character recognition, artificial intelligence, and we combine this very neatly to really solve that problem. At the heart of it is how this system is able to plug into the client system, is able to read their contract documents, whether it's scanned copies or whether it's some other form of electronic documents. But beyond just accessing those repositories, it can also connect to their legacy systems. So for example, you only want to focus on contracts that you are exposed in foreign currency. We can actually plug into those systems to harness both sets of data to take decisions at the end of the day. So what it is really helping them achieve speed. It takes a lot shorter timeline to deliver on this capability. And from what we've seen, it's able to give them accuracy levels of up to 95%. The most experienced lawyer doing this with a manual approach, between 85 and 80% is what they can achieve in terms of accuracy. From a cost perspective as well, it's been able to reduce the resources that is dedicated to these contract reviews by as much as 50%. And from a risk perspective, we're able to overcome the sampling, the issues around sampling. We're able to do a 100% review of the contracts that are available. So we've taken this use case and we've adapted it in different ways to different other clients as well. So for example, we worked with an oil and gas company as well. They wanted to look through 40,000 documents within a week. At best, they could arrange to review 500. What we did with them was really leveraging this capability. We were able to pour through the documents that they had to give them a view of whether the contracts they've signed, whether it meets their specifications and the standard contract arrangements. We've also seen it in procurement automation as well, where a telecoms organization, they were trying to use RPA functionality to extract information from certain documents. Because the documents were not standardized, it was a difficult challenge for RPA to deliver on. What this was able to do was, regardless of the structure of the contract, it was able to help them extract the required information. Even in the deal space, we've also seen cognitive contracts also solve problems. An energy company was in an acquisition process, and they needed to look at tons of documents. They needed to look at the contract. They were looking for procurement savings. What this helped them to do is, within a short timeline, they were able to go over thousands of documents of the acquirer and the companies about to be acquired to get a sense of the procurement savings even before the deal is sealed. So regardless of what the problem is, this can be adapted in different ways to solve those problems. So how does it work really? It takes how a human is meant to review those documents, and it breaks it down and leverages different kinds of technologies. So we are ingesting documents with optical character recognition, and we are making meaning from it. It's another thing to really analyze and make meaning from it. So we leverage natural language processing to actually address this. And then the entire cognitive decision making actually takes place at the end of the day. So what it does is that, from an ingestion point of view, it's taking a particular document. So, and what you see here is really a scanned document. So there are handwritten marks on it. The system is actually able to read this, to read what is typed in and what is handwritten as well, and makes meaning from this. So whether it's this type of template or a different template altogether, the system can actually do this, can actually read this. This is a different type of template altogether. What it now does, when you have ingested the documents, you now, apply optical character recognition for it to be converted into a machine-readable form. And then, it's now recognized, but how do you now make meaning from this? What we do in this case is we do what we call tagging. We tag every word that is in the system. And just like we learned parts of speech, in our younger years, what the system now does, it combines these tag words to actually make meaning. So each word is able to recognize numbers, is able to recognize foreign words, and piecing all this together, it now makes meaning from that. The meaning is usually tied to what we set out to look, what we are trying to address at the beginning of the day. So this is an example of how we have reviewed for a particular clause. So we take each combination of words, of paragraphs, as the case may be, and we pass it through the model, and it gives us a sense of whether it meets our requirements or it addresses the requirement or not. So in this case, we are trying to find out whether there are certain clauses in a series of documents that are adequate for termination for convenience. In this particular instance, it tells us that it is false. But if you look at the text in itself, why is it false? It's because there's a particular phrase that actually gives us that indication. So the termination here it exists, yes, but there's a material breach. So it's really not termination for convenience in this instance. So it takes different combinations of words and it makes meaning from that. So we run the second one through the model as well to make meaning from this. This model, as you see it, is what we call a neural network. But I won't go into the terminologies of what it means. But what it does is that it takes each of the nodes that you see here is an algorithm. So it takes data from the source, it passes it through each of the nodes. Each node actually asks or addresses a particular question, and the output from that node actually feeds into the next. And that goes on to really give us whether it's a true or false view in this particular instance. We do this for the entire contracts, and we get a sense of whether the clauses in termination for convenience is adequate. In an insurance client, where we've actually used this as well, they were concerned as to whether the policy on deductibles, whether it was adequate. So they needed to also look through tons and of documents. In this case, they were looking for the adequacy of their wind deductibles. What we were able to do was that we were able to expose the data that was available, and we sat with the domain experts. If you are given these sets of data, what questions will you ask? So each of these questions was developed into a machine learning algorithm. A machine learning algorithm was meant to actually address that particular question. So each of the nodes represent a question. In each of these, what was of important concern was the country, the region of the country, the tier of the country, the type of account. And it gives us a view that this is actually less than 10%, which in this case was adequate. And they were able to solve that for thousands of documents that they actually had. So we also used it for a telecommunications company where they were trying to gauge whether the contract they used was standardized or not. And this visual gives them a view as to how extensive the lack of standardization was. So the red font, the red colors actually indicates that there's a lot more that needs to be done, that it is largely not standardized in the way that they actually want it. So this is one of the views of how we have been able to leverage artificial intelligence to solve real problems in our client environment today. My time is up, but I have a very quick view as well of how we're able to work with organizations to manage value across the enterprise. What this does is leverages descriptive analytics, the data that you have in your organization. But over and above that, it also extends it to external data that is available that gauges some form of metric that you track. What it does is it takes what metrics are important to you, regardless of whether data sits in the organization or who owns the data, whether it's finance or operations or or customer, whatever it is, wherever the data sits, and it gives you a view of how you are performing based on how you've actually defined it. But beyond just describing the data that you do have, it also leverages predictive analytics for some certain metrics that are important for you to know beforehand. So if an ATM is about to run out of cash based on the trend that you've seen in the past, it gives you a sense that even before it runs out of cash, you need to send someone to the field to actually do a fill-up. But beyond that, we can also leverage intelligence assistance to actually drive many of these capabilities. Alexa, launch water utilities.
Sorry, I'm not sure.
Alexa, launch water utilities.
Welcome to Water Utilities. How can I help you today?
What's the overall customer sentiment?
Let me know if you need some help.
What's the overall customer sentiment? Okay, Alexa is not responding. But what it does is that it takes the data that you have and it interprets it. So the time that you have to go through studying this dashboard, Alexa tells you what you need to focus your attention on. So these are some of the capabilities that we do have, and we'll be willing to engage you one-on-one on many of the other capabilities that do exist within our stable. Thank you.